The Converse Cowboy Journey has given me an opportunity to sit down with some amazing performers from all walks of life, where it is my job to tease out their habits and routines so that you can apply and test in your own life. I've learned, I've grown personally, I've been enlightened, and I've been humbled. Above all, I've realized there is no destination in this life, no goal achieved, or money made that can replace the feeling of flow and the pursuit of doing what you truly love to do. With a growth mindset, I'm constantly asking questions and pursuing knowledge. The Converse Cowboy is a platform that allows me to do just that. I'm excited and eager to share their stories with you all. I'm Mike Roberts, and this is the Converse Cowboy.
This episode is brought to you by Kimes Ranch and Ghostwood Distilling Company. The Converse Cowboy is about mindset. It's about mental health as it relates to performance and life, right? And I think the two go hand in hand. And you being a musician, I want to dig into your path. What got you to where you are today, and how you handle the stresses of being a professional musician, and then also what it's like being a human in this world that we live in. And so I've followed your content for a while now, and a friend of mine, he's also a singer-songwriter. He goes by The Last Knife Fighter. He turned me on to your music, I don't know, a few years ago. And for those of you listening, there's a plug for my pal, the Knife Fighter. Go check him out.
For sure.
But I'm glad he did, and because it was like the first song I heard, I was like, oh shit, where's this guy been at, you know? And then I went down the Langhorne Slim rabbit trail, and here we are today. So I appreciate you taking the time to jump on here, man.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
I'm going to start out with a quote I heard you say in a different interview, and it goes like this. You said, "One thing that makes me feel still and at ease outside of music or being creative is being real with the motherfucker and not wondering what I'm going to do next or wondering if I have a text message waiting on me." And man, I think that was, I almost named this show, instead of the Converse Cowboy, I almost named it Real Talk or Big Talk. And so what, in your opinion, why do you think, like as a society, why do we not have more real talk going on?
Well, it depends on who you're talking with. I mean, I think that some of us have a harder time with, I guess, what we call small talk or bullshit. And so at certain elements of socializing can be painful. I think music and art, for anybody that feels particularly sensitive in that way, it's something that helps a great deal. I mean, for me, I don't drink booze anymore. I used to spend a lot of time in bars. In order for me to go to, unless it's very close friends, but at this point, it's like in order for me to go out and sort of be comfortable socially or feel connected, it's almost like I need for there to be either really close comrades to engage with or music happening. But why don't we more easily or regularly have real talk? I don't know. I think I think that it's probably nothing new to present outwardly a sort of front than how we're feeling on the inside. I think that's probably been going on for a long time. And I think for certain, we live in a society that, we're all sort of inflicted or infected by that. And life on the internet and social media, I think certainly can heighten that. But I definitely think too that perhaps out of a necessity to connect, there is a lot of folks who are drawn to the real raw deal, whether that be in trying to peel back the layers of one's own identity or self to find what's really cooking in there, to really, wanting to create or to enjoy kind of raw, dirty forms of art and music, and in one way or another kind of get our hands and hearts and souls dirty, if you will, to hopefully connect to something that does feel real.
Yeah, that's beautifully
and
said.
It says in a world that there is so much artificial around us and has been for as long as I've been here, sometimes it's difficult to you want to feel something pure, and it's hard to know at times here I go rambling. So I don't know, I'll just spit it out. But it's hard to know. You want it, you crave it. And then it's hard for us to know, or it's hard for me to have known throughout the course of my life, or to have faith that it's something inside of myself or inside of oneself. And so then I think we can get it confused with trying to find something that feels real outside of ourselves. I'll just stop there to see where our conversation goes.
No, I dig everything you just said, and everything you're saying are things that I ponder quite often. But to kind of tie a bow on that conversation about, having those real conversations, man, I cherish those whenever they do go down that road of like real talk, and I realize that, like, for a long time, I was the guy keeping it surface level, the bullshit of, man, you've been busy lately, what talking about the weather and all, all of the surface level things. And then I went on this soul searching journey about the time I started this show. And I've learned, like, by me opening up, that it is almost like an invitation for others to open up and to be vulnerable, and you almost, in my experience, I can only speak for myself, but it's almost like this flow state that you're a part of in like a real conversation,
I know what you mean. Yeah,
you find your circle, you find your close-knit people, and then I find myself wanting to have those conversations with other folks. But I'm questioning, like, are they there? Like, will they judge me in some way? Like, what is the expectation? Like, and then you're worried about time and all of these crazy thoughts that go through our head, And
you hit on something that I connect with and understand in my own way, as far as when you do, or if you get into sort of put it this way, like, I don't mind talking about the weather. The weather is something to talk about in a real way at times, and so is our emotions, and so are the stars, and so is philosophy, and all of these sorts of things. I think it's like when we could feel sort of, or we could present, the weather chat, where it's almost like an attacking kind of a thing, or like, let's talk real in like an attacking kind of way that doesn't feel, what am I trying to say here? I think that there's a way to dance with each other, that when I feel particularly open and I'm having a conversation, perhaps exposing some of my own vulnerability, if you will, or truth, that does seem to prevent an invisible invitation for somebody else to want to open up, and vice versa. Whereas if I'm like using my will and trying to force somebody to have some sort of like what I perceive to be a real ass conversation, that might shut somebody down. Yeah. I guess is really what I'm trying to say. There's a dance that when we get into a graceful state with one another, I think there's a safety, perhaps, or just an interest that, okay, we're now getting into something that is that feels true and feels interesting, and so it opens up a path to walk down.
Yeah, I agree. Well, tell me, this is, and I'm going to bounce around, my friend, so I apologize if we jump around a good bit here, but is songwriting, because your lyrics are very deep. They can make you laugh and cry in the same song, and so it is like songwriting an outlet in a way, like to have that conversation either with yourself or with others, to have that real talk and put it in a 3-minute song.
Yes, 1,000%. I mean, in my case, I think that was happening before I was aware that that's what was happening. Well, there's a John Lee Hooker song, maybe you're familiar with. It's called Boogie Chillin', and there's a breakdown in that song, and he talks about, and I'm not comparing myself to the great John Lee Hooker, believe me, but I can relate to what it says in the song, and I think a lot of folks probably can in their own way. Which there's a breakdown point in this tune, and he's like, I heard my mother talking to my father. No, I'm paraphrasing here. This is a white Jewish boy doing John Lee Hooker, but I heard my mother talking to my father, and mama said, boy's got something in him, and it's got to come out. And that's always how I felt as a kid, and then in public schools, and in a lot of, societal things that I didn't connect to or felt alien in, out of step, out of place, like so many, I think, particularly creative, artsy, probably kids do, and a lot of other types of kids, I'm sure do. But there was and remains to be, in the same sort of ferociousness that was there when I was a kid, something in me that I want to express, that I want to get out of myself. And the only way that the only kind of vehicle that I've found to do that in is through song. And what I can say is, when I'm writing and when I'm able to utilize that vehicle, if you will, that feels really cathartic, and like I'm releasing, something that's deep within myself. And when I'm not accessing that vehicle, I get real pent up. So I think as I've aged and I can look at it, it certainly is my way of, I don't know if it's distilling, because it must be if they're in short, 3-minute songs. But yeah, to get whatever it is that ails me, or whatever it is that makes me feel good, or this or that, out of me in a way that feels, I don't know, connected to whatever that creative line is.
Yeah.
That I don't have, real words for that.
Yeah, but you've been doing this thing a very long time, and it seems like you have an awareness around, and you can articulate what that is. But how old were you whenever that happened for the first time? And can you describe what that feeling was? Like the first song that you wrote?
Prior to the first song I wrote, I can remember, I have a memory that has, I think, come back to me more recently, in the last so many years, of being really young in school. And there was a little girl, and I don't know why, I don't remember, but she was sitting at her desk and she was crying and sort of beside herself. And I went up to her, and I don't know if I made a fart joke or what I said or did. I have no recollection of it, but I made her laugh. And I remember being really sort of moved by this experience. So I guess so much so that at my age it stuck with me, of some ability to, which it can be dangerous too, because every time somebody cries, it's not the right thing. I've learned to try to make them laugh. Crying is okay and it's good at times. But it was a powerful moment early on in my childhood of being like, holy shit, this girl was just, really kind of just freaking out. And now I've got her laughing and smiling. And that was really, I don't know, that showed me something. A lot of my childhood, before and even shortly thereafter I started playing music, whatever that thing was that I was able to do was often met with disapproval in school, and getting told I was misbehaving, which I was, I'm sure, by being.
Well, that was the label they put on it, right?
Yeah, and understandably so, in that I wasn't acting in accordance to the guidelines of public schools and institutions, which, I say now with some smirk and a bit of pride, I suppose. But at the time, it was difficult for my mom and everything. So, I mean, even prior to that and making a little girl laugh and all that, my feeling as a little child was that I wanted to create something and make something, and where my kid imagination could go prior to having music as far as an instrument, as an outlet, I imagined that I would build some sort of robots. So I can remember fantasizing about building robots. I'm not very skilled at that sort of thing, so I've never built a robot.
How old were you, though? How old were you when you were thinking about building those robots?
Oh, I don't know. I was probably 5 or 6, or just a little kid.
Yeah.
But I was always exposed to a lot of music. I'm from a family of real deep admirers and people who are very moved and sensitive and touched by music. And so I remember always feeling that way myself about it. And then I tried to take some guitar lessons at the local guitar, shop, but I couldn't take to it because it was learning scales and, do that kind of thing. And that for me, now I wish, I would have memorized and learned that stuff, because I think it would help. But as a kid, and even now, it just feels more like math and repetition that's difficult for me. So I didn't take to it. Then my cousin was in a punk band in New Jersey, and Nirvana was huge. I still love Nirvana, And I used to go and listen to my cousin's punk band in the basement out in Margate, New Jersey, and Ventnor, New Jersey. And he was cool enough to teach me some chords on the guitar and this song Polly by Nirvana. And I took those. I learned it pretty quick because I could apply it to something that I could immediately play.
How old
and
were
then
you then?
started to, I don't know if I was 13 or 14, and between 13 and 15, I think it was. And so, yeah, and then I just started to put together little songs from that point, and that was my outlet. I remember sitting in class and just staring at the clock, a classic story, staring at the clock. As soon as the bell rang, I was sort of intoxicated with the feeling, of getting back to my mom's house and getting my guitar and going and playing it. And so that was kind of how that went. And I was writing songs, good or bad or indifferent. I was writing songs pretty quickly. That was just a natural progression.
So it came natural to you.
It.
Did you have were there mentors around that you were reaching out to for advice? I know you said your family was into music, but were there other singer-songwriters that you were surrounded by?
There were some other kids that played guitar, and I used to get together and we would do some Nirvana and Pearl Jam covers for a little bit. But the mentors that I could think of at the moment were my cousin David, who was playing in a band that I really liked, and we shared a lot of the same musical taste. And as I said, he taught me how to play some chords on the guitar. And then my brother John, who was a year and a half older, but I was held back in first grade because they said I wasn't mature enough to move to second grade at that point. And my brother, I think he skipped a grade. So even though we're a year and a half apart, he was getting exposed to, a lot more stuff because he was like in I don't know, high school, 2 years, whatever it was. My point is he was bringing home all these like indie bands and just cool shit that I hadn't heard and turning me on to that. And I was listening to the Pogues and John Spencer Blues Explosion, Parliament Funkadelic, Kool Keith, all this kind of stuff. And then a main one is my cousin Noah, who is, a little bit even more older than I am, and my oldest cousin. And I've always, to this day, I still look up to him. He's just a true, beautiful weirdo. Nobody's like him.
Right.
And he's visual artist and just really knowledgeable about, visual art of different kinds. Also music. Turned me on to Jim Jarmusch films and Don't Look Back, the Bob Dylan documentary, D.A. Pennybaker, which I got obsessed with when I was a kid. And it was my cousin who really took an interest in like my early cassette tapes and thought that it was, interesting. And I would go to visit him in New York and he would take me out to like Washington Square Park and let me busk. And he would like hang back. So it just seemed like I was a little kid, parentless. He was keeping an eye out so nobody kidnap me or something. But so yeah, I had different people in my life. And then my mother is a great singer. She didn't do it professionally but loves music. My grandparents were all lovers of music, and so I was just getting a lot of exposure, I think, to a lot of different kinds of music, which I think was really cool and helpful because I never did identify. Maybe part of it is me taking myself too seriously, or maybe it's like the genre or the label identification is always felt harmful, both if somebody's presenting it onto myself or when I see it presented onto others.
In what way? What do you mean by that?
In the sense that if I'm into only one kind of thing, and that thing is art or music, it seems wildly restrictive because there's so much beauty and there's so much amazing stuff. So if I'm only into bluegrass music or heavy metal music or whatever, then that seems like a disadvantage of all of the beautiful divine sounds that exist.
Mm-hmm. I interviewed Sierra Farrell, if you know that name.
I sure do, yeah.
A while back, and very similar take on that.
I like hearing that, and I'm not too surprised to hear that.
Well, I'm curious to know, I want to dig into the writing process, and instead of asking a generic question like, what is your inspiration, I want to dig into one of your songs that I've been listening to on repeat from your latest album, Strawberry Mansion, Panic Attack.
Yes.
I want to know all the details, man. Like, where were you? Where were you? How long did it take? What are you doing? Are you doing paper, pen, notebook, computer? Can you set the
Yeah,
scene?
I'll try to make it concise, but I'm not great at that. For the whole Strawberry Mansion record, which that song is off of, and that's my latest album, there was a couple years prior to that I was in a dark place. I had relapsed with drugs. I'd gotten sober 9 or so years ago, and I was prescribed Xanax for anxiety, knowing full well that probably wasn't a smart idea for a fellow like me. But I jumped at it anyway, and that led me to some pretty gnarly times. Fast forward, I was living out in Los Angeles for a little bit, looking for love in all the wrong places, and I don't just mean romantic love, but that too. I came home to Nashville and decided, I was just in a real broken state, man. I was the energy was riding real low, and the road felt very, very narrow, and like it was only closing in and didn't have much more space to close. So I checked myself into a rehab place in Nashville to get myself clean, which is something I'd never done in any capacity, which was sort of reach out to other people and get help for this, this particular issue that I've dealt with most of my life. Even when I was sober, I wasn't in therapy. I wasn't in a 12-step community. So I was as I've learned, they call it, kind of white knuckling it. And that didn't, as for so many others, that didn't pan out well for me. And in any case, so there I was. I went to this rehab place. I came out. I was hoping that my stint in rehab was going to be the magical cure. The idea of working on my life every day of my life didn't appeal to me. And in fact, it sometimes still doesn't appeal to me. Just sort of wanting somebody to sprinkle some magical dust on me and say, okay, you're good. Whatever it is whatever that pain is inside, it is no longer. Whatever that craving is inside, it is no longer. So anyway, they made it pretty clear that that's not how it works, and they set me up with with this great therapist. And I'd never really, I'd gone in and out of therapy a little bit here, but never enough to get much of anything from it. My heart wasn't open to it. And so I thought, well, fuck, here I am. I'm not exactly a kid, and I'm running up against the same issues that I've run up against for a long time. And when I took a look at it, it was because I kept trying things the same way. So it seemed, my best friend, he sort of suggested to me, if you want different results, try things a little differently, which sounds easy enough, but can be challenging. So anyway, I went to the therapist that started to open up and talk with her. And that was really, that was really helping in a lot of ways. And I started to, I don't even know if I knew it at the time, but I was really starting to heal. I was starting to get a little bit healthy again. I was completely, clean and sober. And I was, taking a look at things within myself that I had been scared or still am scared in ways, things that I've been running away from most of my life. And I was just starting that process when then we had a big tornado. I know it's a long answer to just a question about where the song comes from.
Brother. You're good.
But we had a pretty pretty devastating tornado that hit Nashville. And that was a hardcore thing to have happened. Followed, I think, a week or a week and a half later, pandemic and then the lockdown. So all of these things sort of coincided with the maddening, crazy, chaotic energy and everything that was and continues to happen, socially and politically. And so there was a whole hell of a lot of stuff going on. And I think because, which I can't know for sure, but I think because for me personally, I was forced, as we all were, forced to go inside and slow it down because we were in the lockdown, that coinciding with all this other shit going on, and me starting this process of trying to try things differently and help myself out, that a lot of songs started to just pour out. All those songs became, which are on the Strawberry Mansion record. The Panic Attack song was a suggestion by that therapist, one session where she had given me the suggestion, because we were talking about the fear and misery that one, and in this case being me, can experience when you're getting sober. Will you lose your connection to your creativity? And then the battle that I have within myself, because my mind doesn't believe that. Intellectually, I don't believe it. But then there's some gnawing thing or voice, maybe that's the voice that wants to hurt me, telling me that that is the truth. So it's sort of like this conflict within oneself of, I don't want to go and use drugs and alcohol again, because that gets me not even nowhere. That gets me close to dead. But I'm terrified that I'm, not going to be able to sort of get out of my own way to create or to connect to that line.
Yeah, has that been a thing? Because you hear of people like Steve Earle comes to mind. He got sober and was concerned and worried he wasn't going to be able to write anymore. Like, how has sobriety affected your writing?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you, no, I never bought into that. That's a myth, and I don't believe it, and it's never affected me at all. But then I would be lying to you. So the truth is, there is that fear, and I've experienced that fear, throughout.
But has it become clear to you though? Like, is it, do you think it's maybe has gotten better, or like you can think clearly? I understand the resistance and the fears that come along with that, right? But
all of the songs, I wrote, I guess, about 25 or 30 songs in the course of 2.5 months. And most of all those songs are on that Strawberry Mansion collection of tunes. And so that was, beyond if it was met with quote unquote success, the gift of having another chance of giving sobriety a chance for myself and living through this last round of debauchery, and then to have put in that some effort and connected with other people, connected to invisible energies that I think can help.
And what would you be referring to? Would you be talking about like the muse, as most writers talk about?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, if there are angels or energy or spirits or God or gods, we're all energy, so we can probably, most of us, agree on that. And whatever it was, there were a lot of songs that showed up for me, and that was something I'm deeply grateful for, to have concrete proof that indeed, you can certainly write and be creative without assistance. The irony of it is I was completely stuck for well over a year, if not 2 years, because of the things that I was putting into my body and feeling like I needed to get closer to myself, closer to my creativity, closer to God, closer to that girl, whatever it was. And so taking shit that might make me feel closer to some of that for a very limited amount of time, but then inevitably feeling further away, but then getting into the cycle of, well, now I just need to take some more of that, and then you're fucked. At least then I'm fucked, because then I'm on that wheel of doom, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
So this shrink had said to me, just to try to put a bow, as you said, on this panic attack number, the shrink had suggested to me that I was having these panic attack episodes, and anxiety, depression, and these are, I'm not a stranger to them, I'll say that. And I was having these just bad bouts of, these panic attacks. And so I was talking with her about it, about this fear of now being sober again, and my songwriting. And when I feel like this, it's hard for me to play and write, because the thing that I find the most transcendent can also be the thing that is the sweetest to me can also feel like I'm the furthest away from, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
And she gave me the suggestion that next time I'm feeling that way, or having a panic attack, or just getting real chaotic and creepy in my own head, to pick up a guitar or go sit at the piano or whatever it is, and to just play, just to hear the music, and to play for the love of it. Like we all like we all do when we're kids, whether we become professional this or that or whatever, just for the bringing
Right.
it back to the true nature of the damn deal and not worry about the result. And what I find for myself, and I don't think I'm unique or unusual in this, is that so many of us are so driven by what the result tomorrow is going to be for the thing that we're doing today, or this thing happens this way or that thing happens that way, that it can paralyze us in fear of doing the thing at all. Or we can become so precious about the picture that we draw or the story that we're writing or the song that we're trying to sing that we get further and further away from getting after it, getting into it, being it. And so anyway, that's a long way of telling you the story that I then got home, the tornado hit, the lockdown pandemic hit, and then a panic attack hit. And then I remembered what the shrink said, and I grabbed my guitar and then just vomited that song out in about just stream of conscious kind of a thing. Sometimes they take a long time, as you've heard any songwriter say, that one just kind of spewed right out.
Really? In one sitting, like
I mean, it took start to finish, I think, in one sitting, and then took some.
And on what though? Is that pen and paper?
No, head and guitar.
No shit. You just play it and remember it.
Yeah, I mean, I might have written it down, or what I do, and it was good doing it then. A lot of times, I think it's a hindrance that having the phone so close to be able to use the voice, the voice recorder, because when I was writing these almost complete songs and sort of statements or thoughts, then to record it that way was a great tool to have to listen back and see how I wanted to change phrasing or melody or something. But oftentimes, because it's so accessible, I'm sure lots of songwriters or anybody that's trying to put down their thoughts in any way, I just have so many little voice memos of things that are just like, I might not even be, if I listen back to some of them, I wouldn't know what I was trying to say, but I just wanted to get the thing down quickly.
Yeah. How do you keep that stuff organized?
I don't. I was hoping you could help me. No, and I get anxious about that too, honestly, because I don't keep it organized. And what I'll do is sometimes in a bit of a manic burst, I suppose, is to go listen through them and then label them, either with a clever and cute emoji or, the words from us. But some of them, there aren't really words. They're just riffs on a guitar or ideas. So yeah, it's I try to trust that I will come back to the ones that I'm supposed to come back to. And I don't know if I really believe that.
Man, that you kind of alluded to it a minute ago, and it's a question I had for you, because I've heard you speak along these lines in other interviews as well. Like, how do you blend that, right? Like, how do you trust that song is supposed to present itself to you? So, like, how do you blend, like, the Eastern philosophies of just being, and then also the Western philosophies of go do it and make it happen? So, like, my question is, how do you find that balance?
Well, I haven't found it yet. I think that I haven't found it in my life, and that is the struggle. And the struggle is only really there because I'm maybe Western heavy, could lean more into the Eastern. And so, my will, what I want what I want strongly. I want an Oompa Loompa, and I want it now. And so there's that truth, but then there also is a faith or a trust in kind of the invisible and the energy that I've had long before I think I read anything about it or was taught anything about that. So I think that's kind of built into the soup in a way, but it's difficult to, here's what I could say in a more practical way that might actually make just real sense, is like, there are songs that come up and they just stick with you and they don't let you stop until you finish it. And that happens sometimes. There are songs that I just can't seem to finish for ages and ages. and then sometimes they'll pop back up. Like I did finish after I went on like a real writing burst. I went back and found some songs that I liked, but I hadn't finished. And sort of crafting those or just writing another verse that felt fun and natural and easy, and I was able to do that. Where sometimes it just feels like a dead end street. And then sometimes I'll be, playing guitar, and some idea that I had years and years ago or months and months ago or a week ago will present itself. So that's something I think is definitely, for me, it's not a conscious decision necessarily to trust that, but it's maybe just having my antennas open enough to receive it and then, listen to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've heard other songwriters say just that. Yeah, their antenna's always up.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of our job, and I've heard other songwriters saying it, so I could be lifting those words. But I think that makes sense, and that's kind of the job. Philosophically, intellectually, like I dig all of that, and I do believe it, and I do subscribe to it. And then it's interesting because the struggle or the battle between I don't know if it's between the Eastern and the Western kind of ways of thinking or being or whatever, but it's like when I go through periods where I feel like the antenna's up but nothing's coming out, then it's it's thrusting kind of will and I just need to do it. And then I know a lot of us can come up against ourselves in this kind of anxious way of, well, where the fuck is the song? Where is it? What's going on? Like, that can't be it. There's and I've always had that.
How do you overcome that? I mean, that's nothing that that is a thing, right? For anybody writing anything is like writer's block or the resistance.
Well, I think I used to deal with it as I did with anything else, with drinking or drugs or looking for inspiration. Hate to say it, but in other people, in places. And so now really I think it's the first time in my life that I'm resisting those, I'm not drinking and I'm not doing drugs, and I'm with one woman in one relationship, and I'm still traveling because it's what I do for a living, and I do find a lot of sort of peace in motion at times, but not trying not to go just because I'm uncomfortable here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's a dance that I sometimes find is like I've learned a step or two, and I'm being a little lighter on my feet or more graceful. And then there are days and times, and it's been coming up for me recently, where I'm like, well, fuck, I feel like I never learned anything, and I'm resisting. I'm feeling that kind of that angst, if you will.
It's somewhat like, I hate to say like assuring to hear you say that, but I know exactly what you mean, dude. And I journal about this I journal every day, and that has been coming up. Like, how can we be so fucking confident, have so much swagger one day, and then like the anxiety just runs through the roof the next day? Like, I'm not doing enough. I need to do better. I need to do more. And like all of these fucking thoughts just go through my brain.
Well, yeah. And what is conditioned and been sort of injected into us. Yeah. And what is the natural state and the natural flow of things, and also what comes up and I'm also journaling for the first time in my life, most every morning.
Oh, right.
And I've been writing about the same sort of thing. But something I think a ton about is, as a kid, I think we're all artists and creatives. Every child is. But say, in the case of you or I, right? It's like, well, not even you. I can only speak for myself with this, as far as maybe you'll relate to it, which is we're creative people. I'm a creative person. That's how I feel the world and process and communicate. But as I got a little older and I learned to play guitar and felt like, well, that, I was in like plays, or I liked to draw or paint as a kid and all this sort of shit. Then I play guitar. Then through the course of time, my identity is built through, now I'm a songwriting guy, I'm on the road, I'm a guitar player, and I write songs. Mm-hmm. And that's beautiful. That's what I've always wanted to be, is a musician who, can make a living and express myself on a stage in front of people. But when the identity becomes so synonymous with that one thing, then whenever there's something that I perceive to be lacking, even if it isn't lacking, if there's any deficiency at all, it attacks my identity, my self-worth, my feeling about myself. And so that's something I'm interested in. Oh gosh, it's exhausting.
Well,
But
I get it though, man.
unraveling.
Like, no, it is. And like, I was a collegiate athlete, and I did the same thing. I identified as a baseball player, and that was it. And when they told me, they said, Mike, you're not good enough to play anymore. Nobody actually told me that, but nobody offered me to pay me to play at the professional level, you know? And so it was depressing, dude. Like, I was in a dark place. And I think a lot of athletes struggle with that, or anybody that has identified with anything struggles with that. And through reading and, you know, going on this soul searching journey, I've realized to release any attachment to any external thing is the key. And attachment being defined as, I need this to make me happy. I need this person. I need that. So releasing any attachment, it comes from within. And that may be cliche and cheesy to say, but it's so true.
It's only cliche or cheesy because it's been made that way and whatever, but it's ancient. And I feel cheesy and cliche saying that stuff too, but it's really like, it's not just some like light hippie shit. It's like ancient shit. Yeah. And it's just the truth. I think it's just the truth.
Yeah, I agree, because truly, like, we cannot find that happiness, that joy. I lean into control what you can control. Well, the only thing I can control, and not even all the time, is my mind, you know?
Absolutely.
I can't control what happens externally, or if so-and-so doesn't align with me or doesn't agree with what I say. Like, I have got to be okay with it, not have the verbiage of, well, I don't give a shit what they say. No, I'm okay with it. That's fine. That's you. We just don't align. I'm actually grateful. Like, I thank you for letting me know we don't align, you know, if someone disagrees with me.
For sure.
The battle of narcissism, I guess, was real for me for a long time. And so the releasing of attachments, and that I learned that through, I don't know if you've read any Anthony DeMello's work. He has a book called Awareness, another one called, I believe it's The Way to Love. Both talk a lot about that. Just really opened my eyes and expanded my awareness to it.
Yeah, I think I've gotten one of his books at one point, and as I have with so many in the past, I might have read a couple pages and put it down. So maybe I should revisit that.
It's one of those, like, I read and I also listen to audiobooks, but that's one of the ones, like, I keep the tabs in the page and it's highlighted, and every time I go back through, I feel like I highlight something new. Yeah,
well, I appreciate the suggestion.
Yeah, man. Well, I know we're running out of time here.
We got some more time. If you got some more questions, I'm happy to chat with you. I'm enjoying it.
Right on. Well, yeah, man, to get to where you're at, and this is a question I've asked other songwriters and musicians on the show, and so the theme of this question is going to be around expectations, right? And so, like, your expectation early on seems like most of the time we just go do the thing without any expectation. We don't know, and we just throw ourselves in it, and well, goddamn, we're actually really good at this thing, and we have a lot of success. Well, when you have that success, then comes the expectation of, well, this is what I did last time. Now I got to hit this level again. Or you're getting expectations from fans, from listeners, from management. How do you deal with that? And how do you separate the art of music, art of songwriting, from the business of what you do? Because you are doing this as a profession.
Yeah. And I think all the while, as you're building these expectations, and as when you're young, you might not even know it, and not knowing that maybe you're going at a speed, but not, and I don't know how you would know this unless you were taught it or something, or it came innately, to have a spiritual practice or something to work on that, to make you know that, again, it feels cheesy and cliche to say, but that you're enough, that your worth isn't based on the next scholarship or the NFL team or the baseball team giving you a contract, or in my case, whatever it might be. The theater selling out, the fucking record deal, the bus or the lack of, all of these things. You know, when I was little, I got into quite a bit of trouble in school. And I remember there was, they really liked me at this. I went to an amazing little, kind of an alternative high school that was beautiful. And they could have thrown my ass out so easily. But they didn't. They just said, you just have to stop being an asshole. Like, we understand that we
What,
believe in you.
what were you doing to be an asshole though?
No, I was I was real disrespectful at times to the teachers, and to the ones that I didn't connect with, or I didn't, in public school, I was terrible, but they were terrible as well. Or they were great, but they're just not for me. I couldn't, there was no way that I could blend into what they were up to over there, because it didn't, just a fish out of water kind of situation. What can you do? You throw me back in the fucking water, but I'm still, it was bad. So they asked me to leave that place, and that was good. That happened. And then I went to this other school, and I was still raising a little hell. Then, it turned around, because they did, thank God, they saw something in me. They were, as people would say these days, I felt seen. They saw me. It was okay that I wasn't good at this or that. As long as I behaved myself and wasn't acting like a little shit, they gave me opportunities to be creative and to feel like that is another flavor of intelligence. Whereas in the curriculums in public schools, unless you can, I don't want to discount that kind of intelligence. So I do like to discount it at times, sort of book smarts or memorizing, whatever. It's its own flavor. But when you have that, and there's no room, which I understand, it can't be that vast. There's only certain teachers and a certain curriculum, but it's crushing for a lot of kids, and a lot of kids aren't lucky enough to then go to another school or have somebody else say, no, you're not stupid. You're not like incapable of learning and just like a big dummy who's never going to go anywhere. You're actually quite smart, just in a different way.
Yeah.
And so this other school, Sobriety School in New Hope, Pennsylvania, they were wonderful to me. And I just remember when I wasn't being so wonderful and some shit was hitting the fan, and they took me aside, and I think were considering throwing me out of that too. And they were like, why can't you just be cool? Like, why can't you just do the deal? Like, we're pretty good to you, pretty like whatever. And I just remember saying, because none of this matters to me. I just need to get out of here. Like, I'm either going to be a rich and famous musician or a homeless guy on the beach with my guitar, and neither one really matters to me, because I'm just going to do the thing that I want to do. Man. What I didn't take into account is that there's a lot of gray area between living on the beach playing my guitar and being rich and famous, and I've sort of existed between there somewhere.
But good for you though, for knowing. I mean, I envy that in a way. Like, you knew what the fuck you wanted to do. Like, you knew that was your path. Yeah,
that is true. There was never, which now at my age, looking back at it, it is amazing in a way of like, how do you make this work? Because just through determination and some friends and some this and that, I was able to not, I don't know. I never had a plan B or whatever in my mind, and somehow never really needed to find one. But I guess I was saying all that shit to speak to the expectations, which I think as a kid, it was just, I just want to get out of school. My expectation was I want to get out of school, play music, and be free. But then, then you get a little, I met a little success, or I was able to get some small shows or this or that. And of course, the expectations continue to build, and that identity continues to build and present itself as almost like, this is the thing that I need to do in order to do what I'm here on this world for. And in my mind, there wasn't even room for really putting enough effort into friendships, into relationships, into things that I know now so deeply matter. It was definitely like one track mind sort of thing. And now I'm losing my track, my mind. Well, but I guess the expectations thing is, what I can say is that it still sneaks up on me. I'm more aware of it now, but I would be lying to say that I figured that out. I would say that when I wasn't doing any therapy, and when I got sober for the first time about 9 years ago, and stayed off of drugs and booze for 2 or 3 years, that I didn't realize just to put it into that world, that my addictions were just sort of hopping over to career and to relationship. So then my focus was, it got completely blown out to, I put a record out, had wild expectations of what I wanted that record to do. And there was a woman who I had wild expectations for what I wanted she and I to do. And when my will wasn't enough to get that record to do exactly what I wanted it to do, and that woman to do, it sounds crude because it is, exactly what I wanted she and I to do, I emotionally couldn't fucking deal with it. And that's when I started to, really kind of break apart again, and then started down this path with prescription pills, which led to a bunch of other shit. But so now I live to tell the tale to myself and to you. But so I at least I know that is ego, that is expectation, that is for me addiction. And I still have all of those things, but I can just try things differently today. At least I can tell myself the story of, well, here's when I'm feeling this way, and my expectations are out of whack, or what I need for my own self-worth is out of whack. And then I feel out of whack to try just different approaches to try not to, fall off the cliff.
Yeah. There's a slogan I say all the time, because I used to think you could get to this place and that equaled happy, but I've learned that the journey that we are on is the destination. And
Absolutely.
This thing is a constant practice, and we're going to fuck up. We're going to mess things up. We're going to do things great. And nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
No doubt. And either there is no mountaintop or we're already on it. But
exactly.
Yes,
yeah. A question I have, though, for you now is, how do you measure success nowadays for the songs that you're writing?
Well, I felt when I was making the songs that are on the Strawberry Mansion record that felt very true and real. And so when I'm aligned with that, in that sort of energetic space or whatever that is, I definitely find I'm far less consumed with, what the record is going to do, what's coming next, and how many people are going to like it, and is this going to, get me up the ladder of success, whatever that might mean to me or whomever. So that's really it. The idea of success for me is to write truthfully and to be open enough to be there when the songs show up. And then at this point also, again, is that the Western thing can, kind of at war with the Eastern philosophy, or is there a balance of there is using some of my will or my tools or my passion or energy to make shit happen, but not to force it and to suffocate it. It's like you can love something or try something so much and so hard that you're really suffocating it, which I know something about in this sort of way. So yeah, it changes from day to day. I know what it is intellectually, but my feelings tell me other things when I'm not in the midst of kind of getting my hands dirty with some sort of musical or creative project. I'm definitely, the expectation is this kind of hunger to find the next chapter or the next well of music or of expression.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, man, it never stops me any success or perceived success or rejection. But since I'm a little kid dancing around with the red leather jacket and the white glove, I always wanted to make music and have a lot of people know about it and to connect with it. So I can't lie and say that it's just about, writing a tune for me. I want to get out in front of people and, have this kind of connection that I only experience in that way, which is through music with groups of people, there's a connection and something, I think, sort of divinely kissed or touched in that space that I think humans desperately need. It's ancient, and that it does, man. There's not, that might sound cheesy or cliche, but it's just true. Nothing brings people together in that kind of beautiful harmony or way that I know of, like music.
Yeah. You're doing it though. You know, you're truly doing you. You're doing what you love to do. You happen to be really damn good at it. People enjoy it. You're bringing value to them. Therefore, they pay you to do what you do. I say you win. You know, when you can combine all of that, you win. And I know that's very simple, and it may not feel that way at times, but you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, and it's never, I guess, for any of us to forget what the dream is as a kid, which for me it was just to be able to write songs and travel around with a guitar and sing them. Mm-hmm. So if I pervert that or get it twisted, which at times I do, but at times I don't, and and maybe I haven't mentioned that, but you know, there are times where I do feel like I'm in line with where I want to be, you know, which feels good. But yeah, man, expectations can be a real poisonous path.
Yeah, and I guess the answer to all of it is to continue to search, you know, to not just go through life on autopilot. And this is for me, right? I'm not telling anybody how to live their life. This is for me. Like, I choose to just seek to understand, you know, seek to understand my own awareness, my own thoughts. Why do I think that way? Why am I pissed? Like, that's the other thing. For a long time, I got into this apathetic state, and I thought that was the answer, right? This is what the Stoics are teaching me, is just to be apathetic and not have any desires. Well, guess what? That's not right either, because then you just fucking become numb and you don't do anything.
Checked
you don't
out.
enjoy, yeah. And so it's like, no. Feel all the feels. Like, get angry, get mad, get sad, cry, laugh, all of it. But don't become overwhelmed by any of it. You know, like, keep it in check, be aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it. You know, reflect on those things. Again, like, that's my practice for me. Not preaching to anybody, but it's something that I work on.
Me too. And I think all of it, for where you and I are coming from, life does take work, and it's a daily thing. And there are days that I really get excited about that. And I'm grateful that there is no cure-all pill or something like that. But it took me a while to get excited about that, and it can be overwhelming and could feel like a steep hill to climb. But thus far, it is worth taking some steps. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, my friend. We have a section here called Rapid Fire. It's going to be a little bit lighter. We've been talking about some heavy stuff, and so we'll lighten it up a little bit and then wrap it out and let you get out of here. All righty, my friend. Is there a book that you have gifted the most, or a book that has had the biggest impact on you?
Letters to a Young Poet.
Who wrote that?
That's Rilke.
Yeah. Okay.
It's fantastic, yeah, and I think you would love it with some stuff that we've been talking about today.
The guy I mentioned earlier, the songwriter buddy of mine that turned me on to you, actually referred that book to me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, what is a song that you wish you wrote?
Oh gosh. There's a lot of them. All right, come back to it.
Okay, we come back to that. To follow that one up, though, what is a song that you're glad you wrote?
There's a song called Diamonds and Gold I wrote when I was pretty young, and put it away for a while for one reason or another, and I'm proud of that one. That one comes back up now, and I'm proud of that.
How old were you when you wrote it?
Early 20s, I would imagine. Early mid-20s.
Right on. What about pets?
I got one cat named Mr. Beautiful.
Who
I adore.
That's awesome. Right on. What is the worst job you've ever had?
I think it was... Okay, well, we're going to go to... They were pretty equally bad, but I got a job at a Baskin Robbins ice cream place on the Ocean City Boardwalk when I was a kid. And a guy walked in, got a scoop of ice cream, handed me the money, and I gave him like $20 too much change. He proceeded to come back in, notify the manager, which he was being super honest, and the manager just came up to me and was like, "This isn't going to work out." So I lasted a full day at the Baskin Robbins.
Right on. What is the best investment under $100 you made in the last 6 months?
Well, we're talking about this journaling, and I just started. People have recommended the Morning Pages and the Artist Way book to me for
Julia Cameron.
As long as I can remember. And there was another thing I resisted, and I bought it yet again. I think I bought it 5 times over the years, and that's how I've been doing my journaling, and that's been a real positive way to start my day, and a damn good investment.
Yeah, right on. If you could go to any time period for 1 week, when and where do you go?
Anytime. I mean, there were so many times, so many periods. This is the shit I overthink. Let's see here. I'm gonna try to make it a musical thing here. So maybe let's go like early 60s. I think New York. I could go to like the Apollo, see what's going on over there. I could go to the Village, see what's going on over there. So I guess I'm gonna say New York City. See, I want to now I'm beating myself up. I want to have a better answer. I'm just going to go to New York City 60s.
Man, that's so interesting. Most every songwriter says 60s or 70s. Like they go somewhere like musically related.
Yeah, totally. Makes sense.
Yep. What is your next tattoo going to be?
In fact, I was thinking about maybe getting Mr. Beautiful's nose and whiskers. So I'll go with that.
Right on. Where at?
Right in where the sun don't shine.
Right on. Alrighty, man. I got one last question for you. If you could have a billboard, metaphorically speaking, to get a message out to millions of people, what does your message say?
It would be not my words, but I love it from Louis Primo, and a lot of people sang this song, which is something I think about and sing the song to myself every day. Enjoy yourself. It's later than you think.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, dude, I've enjoyed it, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Will you let people know where they can find you and what shows you may have coming up here for the month, the remainder of June and for the summer?
Yeah, I'm doing some festivals and some. I think there's a couple solo shows. There's going to be a handful of duo shows with myself and my dear friend Twain, who is one of my favorite musicians and songwriters, and a dear friend. So I haven't seen him in a while with the pandemic and all that. So we're going to get back together, and then there's going to be some band shows, and going into the fall, a lot of band shows, as long as the universe permits.
Well, cool, man. Well, dude, I truly appreciate you coming on the show and enjoyed the hell out of chatting with you.
It's been a real pleasure, man. Thanks for the invitation.